Y'all are having a great day. I started out by taking 10 of these square paint sticks. I ordered them from Amazon, and I lined those up on my little mat. I did leave the top and bottom edges a little bit uneven, and then I cut 2 more of the paint sticks and hot glued those across the bottom as well as the top of my boards just to hold these together. It makes a really nice little surface, and it's very inexpensive to do. Plus, I love the way that it looks. Then I'm taking my folk art chalk paint in the color Java and some water on a paintbrush, and I'm watering down this paint and just staining the entire surface. The paintbrush is just a lot easier to get into all those little nooks and crannies of all the boards. Now, once I have that completely coated, I'm going to take a dry paper towel and blot off any of the excess water. And then I'll go ahead and hit that with the blow dryer to make sure that this brown layer is nice and dry. Then I'm going to take one of these little tea light candles from the Dollar Tree. Y'all see me use them all the time. And I'm going to wax the surface of these boards with a good thick layer of this candle wax. Then I'm using my Waverly chalk paint in the color Plaster and a chip brush and applying a good thick coat of this off-white all over the boards as well. Now, once that was completely coated and nice and dry, I'm going to take my paint scraper, or as it's really called, a 5-in-1 tool, and I'm going to scrape the surface of this board. I did go in 2 different directions. I went across, and then I just kept turning the board so that I could scrape all of the areas. Just made it a little bit easier to get in these smaller places. I love this chippy look. This is my very, very favorite technique. Y'all see me do it all the time, but I'll never get tired of it. I love the way that it makes this look old, and these are just plain paint sticks. You could also use the ones with the handle. They would just give you a little detail where the little curves and lines in those handles are, but they would look just as nice. Now, once I got that scraped and chippied as much as I wanted, I used this Tim Holtz Distress Oxide in the color Vintage Photo, and I rubbed that all over the surface of these boards, and I took a dry paper towel just to kind of buff that in and make sure that I didn't have any wet stain. I love the way that it aged it. Now, I went online and I searched for a printable version of the Constitution, and I printed that out on rice paper, and then I'm using a small brush, and I'm using the water that I had left over from staining my boards earlier because I like the way that it finishes the edges. It gives it a darker, kind of an antique-y look. And this makes it really easy to tear this rice paper. And I just tore that down to the size that I needed to fit on my board. Now I'm going to take my Mod Podge and add a good coat of that to the back of my printable. And then I'll flip that over and add it to my surface. Now, I did use the blow dryer as I went over and kind of rubbed it into the little crevices between the slats of my paint sticks. And I got that nice and dry. Now, I cut out this little primitive star just from a piece of cardboard, and I'm taking the paper off of one side to get down to that corrugated look. I just cut this out by hand. I wanted it to look primitive and not to be a perfectly even star. And I'm taking my Distress Oxide in the color Walnut and kind of going over that to make it look older as well. Then I added some hot glue and glued that to the bottom of my board. Now I'm using my Bodabra. You can pick these up at Amazon, Hobby Lobby. I believe Walmart may have them online. And I used a strip of painter's drop cloth that I ripped, as well as some camel fabric and this really tiny striped homespun red and kind of tan fabric as well. And I did a couple of layers of these colors just to get the look that I wanted in my bow. And then I'm going to tie that off with my string and knot it really good on the back. And then I trimmed up the edges of my bow. And I found this old kind of black button. It's super old. I love the old buttons. And I'm gluing that to the center of my bow. And then I'll add that to the top corner of my surface. I love how all of these colors go together. It's a really nice primitive look. Now I've got another piece of that Constitution paper that I printed earlier, and I just cut off a little tiny piece. This is probably like a 1/2 inch by maybe 2 inches long. And I ripped the edges of that, and then I cut out a little piece of my drop cloth as well, and I'm just pulling those little ends of that fabric to tatter it. And I'm using my Child's Play stamps. These came from Hobby Lobby. And I printed out USA, and I'm hot gluing that paper onto my drop cloth and adding that onto my star. I just thought that made a nice little detail. This was such a simple little project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you some inspiration. Happy Monday, everybody, and I will see you later. Bye.